police officer threw a grenade that hit her right in her forearm and exploded right as it hit her forearm. There are many witnesses, and they have shrapnel. They said, the sheriff's office said that they did it to themselves. They blew up their own bombs or something. That's ridiculous. The doctors, I spoke to the surgeon himself directly, they took shrapnel out of her arm. So it's pretty clear that it was a grenade, and they're going to save that shrapnel. It's going to stay in pathology until it's needed. There's proof, there's evidence that our government is throwing grenades at our people who are there peacefully protesting. Wayne Wilansky. My daughter Sophia Wilansky. She's 21. Just graduated from Williams College just a few months ago. A bright future ahead of her.
What do you say to encourage others to go and stand against this movement?
I think I encourage everyone who can go to just go. It doesn't have to be there. Stand up anywhere. Your local assemblyman, your local senator, make the phone calls. Bombard people with phone calls. If all you can do is make a phone call, make the phone call. Call people. Tell them that this is un-American what we're doing to the native people. It's just, once again, we're going to brutalize the native people. We haven't done enough over the last 500 years.
The police are saying that the explosion might have been caused by something that protesters did.
That's absolutely false. There's absolutely clear evidence. There's multiple witnesses, and my daughter, who was completely conscious, said that they threw a grenade right at her.
So she saw them throw it.
She saw them throw it right at her. So this had nothing. We have pictures of the grenades. There's no question as to what happened.
The sheriff out there said that he heard an explosion. That's all he said. He heard an explosion. Didn't talk about what the explosion did or who caused the explosion. They're the only ones that have the weapons. These people, they're not carrying any weapons out there. They're carrying sacred pipes.
I mean, the force of the explosion blew the bone out of her arm, and all of the arteries and all of the muscle that supports her arm, it just blew out. It wasn't caused by a fire or anything else. This was a grenade. This is a weapon of war.
Have the doctors given you any sense of what the chances are that she's going to be able to maintain her arm?
It's a very, very long process. And if she maintains the arm, she'll have very minor function with it. So we may face a situation where one day we're going to have to say, do we want the cosmetic arm, or do we want something else which gives her more function? A very difficult decision, obviously, for a 21-year-old girl to look at her arm and think about.
Right, said were you protesting on this issue?
Yes, she is very much against the fact that we are using fracked gas and that we're destroying the climate. I mean, obviously, everyone around the world, except apparently our president, knows, our next president, knows that climate change is real and devastating. And she's there trying to save the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. Without planet Earth, we're not going to do very well.
Who do you hold responsible for her injuries?
Who does she hold responsible for?
Who do you hold responsible for her injuries?
I think I hold the governor of North Dakota, the police, the National Guard, whoever is in control of that area. I think that they knew what was coming. Even President Obama, who I love, said 3 weeks ago, well, we're going to wait and see. There's nothing more to wait and see. These people need help. They need to defuse the situation before people die. And people will die if the situation isn't stopped. That's pretty clear. She was there for 3 weeks. She was planning to stay throughout the whole winter. She got a 35-degree below sleeping bag, and she was planning to support them through the North Dakota winter. Is that all? There's a pipeline in New York where they're running a pipeline next to Indian Wells nuclear power plant. It's like 100 yards away. They're running a pipeline, which seems insane. So she protested that. And some other pipelines, frack gas pipelines in Massachusetts. And, you know, she's obviously very much in support of trying to limit the amount of fracked energy that's taken from the ground, because we don't need it, and all it's going to do is create more and more havoc in the planet.
How long is she expected to stay here at HCMC?
I can't, no, weeks, perhaps months. was airlifted here yesterday, yeah. They tried to rush her to a team that had vascular surgeons that can handle this kind of surgery, and like I said before, because of the delays, it complicates the whole healing process. If she got here 3-4 hours earlier, it would have been a little bit better prognosis, I think. Stop.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're holding, once again, we're holding a candlelight vigil here on the north side of the building, the purple building. Please get that word out to everyone in the community, and bring candles, bring warm clothing. We don't know when the snow is going to hit us big time, but bring some warm clothing with you. And when the hospital found out about that, they called me and wanted to move us over to the Elliott Park over here. And I told him no, he's not in Elliott Park, he's in the hospital here. That's where we want to be, with our prayers and our music and our songs. And let her know that we're here in 100% support. This young lady, this is our Quay, I call it, this young warrior woman, who's not even thinking about herself, she's thinking about the children and unborn generations to come. It's not about us anymore, it's not about the movement, not about us as adults. We lived our life. It's about our children. It has no, world doesn't have any discrimination. If it gets into the water, or a lake there, or the river goes down, runs into the Mississippi River, all the way down New Orleans. So it affects millions of people, millions of children, grandchildren, those yet born, unborn, yet to come. And that's why we're there. That's why we're supporting. We're asking for your support. We're asking you to go back to your community, get on the phone, start calling people. I guess there's something like 600,000 people responded just since last night across America and around the world. The whole world is watching us, watching what is taking place at Standing Rock. And so we have to stand together in total support of one another, of those that are crying out for help, especially the women and the children. I want to ask Mitch Walkenhawk, he's put some time there. Mitch is well known in our community, and I'd like to have him say a few words there with him.
I'd just like to reiterate what the people have said about the water protectors and defenders and Standing Rock being there to stop the Dakota Access Pipeline. If you could raise this sign up back here, you could get a picture of that. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. made a statement the other day, gave a very clear description of what Energy Transfer Partners, the company that's laying the pipeline, is doing. And a lot of what they are doing is illegal. And he said that what's happening at Standing Rock with the peaceful demonstrators is that they are spearheading the movement away from our dependence on oil and to alternative energy. And we need to focus on that. At the same time, there need to be criminal charges filed against Sheriff Kyle Kirchmeyer or Kirchlier, whichever you prefer, and Governor Jack Dalrymple. And if these officers can be identified, for instance, the officer that threw the grenade at this young lady can be identified, there needs to be charges against them as well. And so, to this young lady, thank you. And to her family, I hope.
I'd like Lisa Darnger to speak at this time. Lisa's been doing this kind of work all her life. I can remember when she was 3 or 4 years old, she was already involved in issues like this with her mother and her family with the American Indian movement. So I'd like to ask Lisa to say a few words with you.
Bonjour, Vijuans Indigenikas. My Ojibwe name is Young Lynx Woman. I am with the American Indian Movement for my entire life, as my uncle stated. And also I'm currently a board member for the International Indian Treaty Council. First of all, I'd like to talk to you as an Ojibwe woman, Ojibwe grandmother, and state how we, as Ojibwe people, it is our responsibility as women to care and protect the water. And so we are here to stand with Sophia and her family to support her as she has done that work for us. She is a water protector and a human rights defender. And so we honor Sophia in that way for standing with us to protect that sacred lifeblood of Mother Earth. But this issue is not just Ojibwe, it's not just Dakota, it's not just Standing Rock. It is not just native lands, it is Mother Earth. It is the water, the lifeblood of Mother Earth. And we must remember that. The press is trying to say, oh, it's just Standing Rock, and why is all this fuss over just maybe a burial grounds? Can't they move them? No, this is not just Standing Rock. This is a water supply for many people. In fact, of most of South Dakota, through the Mini-Wee-Troni Rural Water Project, water is piped directly from south of that point, from the Missouri River to most of South Dakota, because of their water was contaminated in the early 70s with exploration drilling. And if you think about where the water flows from there, from the Missouri, it flows right into the Mississippi, and will feed directly into that dead zone that we are already concerned about down in the Gulf area prior to the Gulf. This is not just Standing Rock, friends and relatives. This is Minnesota, or one of the America's, or this country's major water sources that we are protecting. And how do our governments, how did they go from Hennepin County to North Dakota? Have you thought of that? Have you answered that question when we stood here and we protested? Friends, they utilized the Emergency Management Assistance Compact, federal legislation that allows for federal appropriations to provide assistance for emergency or disaster crisis situations. So we must ask the question, is the oil pipeline the disaster and the crisis situation? Is federal dollars being used to go out and harm our people of all nations? Friends, the father, Wayne, he told us we need to make those phone calls. We need to call our representatives, and they need to stop allowing the EMAC misuse and abuse to terrorize those water protectors up there who are trying to stop and to save that beautiful water. And the world is watching. What news channels are here now? This will go international, I promise you. And we, with the International Indian Treaty Council, they sent me a very long press release, and if you give me your card, I'll email it to you, and it will be on our website at iitc.org. But some of the international work that we have done to date, I just want to skim over and highlight that. We have organized and arranged visits from the Special Rapporteur who came to Standing Rock to witness for themselves the human rights violations that are taking place there against the environment as well as the people. On November 15th, there was a report submitted to the UN Special Rapporteur on the right to peaceful assembly. And his response, which hit the Washington Post, law enforcement officials, private security firms, and the North Dakota National Guard up to that time as unjustified and excessive force. This is coming directly from United Nations delegates and representatives. So we're in the process of bringing in Chief Edward John, Grand Chief Edward John, who is with the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. The submission highlighted a number of human rights violations, requested that these human rights mandate holders call upon the United States to uphold its commitment, including the tribe's right to free and prior informed consent under the UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty. Primary concerns expressed by the Standing Rock Sioux tribe include the potential devastating effects on the Missouri River, their primary water source, as well as sacred sites and burial grounds. There is also a special invitation to Victoria Talley Corpus, the UN Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Indigenous People. So again, friends and relatives, it is not just here in Hennepin County, it is not just in Standing Rock. The eyes of the world are watching, and we need to hold North Dakota, the governor, and Morton County accountable. And so I hope that you come today and that you share with us in some prayers for our young water protector, for our young human rights defender. So as an Anishinaabe Kwe grandmother, I ask you to come and share it with us today at 4 o'clock. Miigwech.
I just want to make a little remarks here about the Enbridge Sandpiper pipeline. That pipeline was scheduled to go right through one of the most premier wild rice beds in the world on the Whiter Chippewa Reservation. And it was going to proceed down through Red Lake, Leech Lake, Fond du Lac to Lake Superior. And as you know, we were successful in stopping that from happening. But we didn't stop it. It's going along around the state of Minnesota in the western, northwestern part of the state of Minnesota and going down and joining the big one, the Dakota Access Pipeline. So they're putting billions of dollars together. Billions of dollars are coming together to make sure that that pipeline is carried through. You know, and we would never dream, about building a pipeline through Fort Snelling National Cemetery. That wouldn't happen. And this pipeline that's coming down to the Missouri River was scheduled to cross the river and the lake just a little bit above Bismarck. But the white folks spoke out about that. They didn't want their children poisoned if they should have a break in that line. So what do? They move it down 36 miles to the native people's land, sacred land that's been held in trust for us by our grandfathers and grandmothers and our chiefs. They set aside, and even the land that was ceded to the government, we never gave up the right. And they never fulfilled their obligations to us by treaties. Still don't today. You know, if you go rent a house somewhere in Minneapolis, you agree to a lease agreement. You know, you have to pay so much a month. You missed a couple payments, what happens? You get evicted. So as far as I'm concerned, it's the end of the month and the rent is due. We'd like to, if you have any more, don't have any more questions, I'd like to ask the drum to sing a special song, a spiritual song, a prayer song for Sophia Wilansky.
Come on, Aaron. Aaron, come on. Get over here.
Gotta say by me.
Come on, get over here. Come on. Sit down, buddy. Right here. Here. Right here.
Welcome, Toka, Toka,
Lisa, you want to sing a song for Sophia?
Right there. Sit right here. Sit right here, maybe.
This song was written by my sister, who will be with us tonight at the prayer vigil, and it is a song that says, water, we love you, water, we respect you, and water, we thank you. And my sisters were able to travel to North Dakota to share our Ojibwe water blessings and ceremony with them. And this song was written by, it's a prayer song for the water. And we sing it, we say thank you to the water, and we honor everything that that water gives us as life. As we all know, our life is dependent on it. Miigwech.
All right.
Well, thank everybody for coming here, especially the media, and I hope you can do a little bit more investigating on your statements that you're going to be making to the community. Thank you once again, everyone, for coming down. We'll see you at 4 o'clock on the other side of the building.
Water is life! 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 Oh, yoink.